Hello there, my name is Ben Walker and I'm working with Promise Yourself to tell you guys about the stuff that we're just not taught about at school. So that can be taxes, mortgages, renting, buying a house, all these things that we need to learn about but we're just not taught. And today I'm talking about credit cards. Now, credit cards can be a great tool for buying things, they really can. Everyone thinks credit cards and immediately thinks, no, debt. So don't panic too much if you're thinking about getting a credit card. It's not the end of the world, don't worry. In fact, credit cards have got loads and loads of really useful attributes that can make them perfect for a wide variety of things. Now, first of all, they can help you buy things if you can't afford them right now. For example, let's say that your phone breaks and you can't afford to wait until you get your paycheck, so you want to buy it right now. Well, a credit card can help because essentially the way a credit card works is it's a very, very short-term loan from your credit card supplier that you are going to pay back, theoretically, you're meant to pay back at the end of every month. Now that means that you could borrow the money to buy your phone, and then at the end of the month, once you have your paycheck, you can then just pay that money straight back. Now it is quite important to make sure that you do pay that money back at the end of every month because credit cards of course have quite high interest. So if you don't pay that money back, you then are technically in debt and therefore will be paying interest on that money that you don't pay back. So it's only really worth buying things on a credit card if you know you can pay off the balance. Now another great thing about credit cards is they come with a little bit of extra protection. Now this is called Section 75. Now essentially what this means is that if you buy an item or a good or a service between £100 to £30,000, you are protected under this Section 75. And what it protects you from is if the item is faulty, if it doesn't turn up as it was advertised, or if it doesn't turn up at all, then you will be protected and you'll be able to claim some money back. Now of course it may be a little bit more difficult than that to actually claim the money back from your supplier, but that is there to protect people. You should be able to claim money back. It also protects you if the retailer goes broke. So if the retailer goes out of business, then you should be able to get your money back still. Also, with regards to Section 75, that is still in effect when you're abroad. So if you buy something overseas, you would still be able to claim money back for any of the reasons I mentioned above. But credit cards really are good for travel. Now this is because also if you pay on your credit card with the local currency, then you will get your bank's best possible exchange rates. That means that you won't get stung by really, really bad exchange rates. Also, if you do lose your credit card, as long as you're not going around waving your credit card in the air shouting out your PIN number, you should be able to get any charges made on that card back from when you lost it to when you claim, so you shouldn't be losing too much money there as well. Now credit cards also sometimes come with reward systems. So the more money you spend on a credit card, the more rewards you get. So there are some great reward systems out there. It's definitely worth having a look, seeing what's around and how you can actually make your credit card get you a little bit more money or a little bit more money off goods. So do your research, have a look around and see what reward systems you can find out there. Now of course, credit cards can also help you build your credit score. Having a bad credit score isn't the end of the world, but having a good one can certainly help. When you're trying to borrow money, for example, many lenders will look at what your credit score is and then they'll see that as a measure of how trustworthy you are as a borrower. If you've got a low credit score, chances are you're less likely to get an offer for a loan or a mortgage. If you have a high credit score, you're more likely to get a loan or a mortgage offer. I can't say that you would definitely get one either way, and I can't say you definitely won't get one. So it's a contributing factor. There of course are many, many different scenarios and situations that could affect whether or not you get a loan or a mortgage, but a credit score is a contributing factor. So it is worth having a higher credit score if you possibly can. Now, you may be asking, well, how do I do that? How do I use a credit card to increase my credit score? And all you have to do is make purchases on your credit card and then promptly pay it off at the end of the month. For example, what I do myself is I just have my phone contract on my credit card, and then I can pay it off at the end of every month because I know that I can afford to pay off my phone contract at the end of every month. So what you want to do is set up a direct debit for items like that. So that means that at the end of every single month, instead of you having to, mess around and sort out all the payments, your credit card supplier will just take the money from your account directly, which will save you a little bit of time, especially if you know that you can afford it. If you aren't sure if you can afford it, then maybe you shouldn't be paying with a credit card. So next we're going to talk about the different types of credit cards that are out there, and there are quite a few. Each of them has got their own advantages and disadvantages. So first of all, we're going to talk about balance transfer cards. Now, these cards are essentially used for transferring your credit card debt from one card to another. Now, balance transfer cards normally come with a 0% interest period, which means it's interest-free for a set period of time. Now, this is great because it could allow you to start paying down the balance on your credit card debt, but at the end, there's normally quite a big interest hike, which could end up costing you a lot of money. So if you think you can pay off the credit card debt within that time period, great, go for it. But if you're not sure, then maybe have a look around, see if there are any other options out there for you. Now, the next type is a purchase card. Now, a purchase card is essentially just for buying things. They normally come with a slightly longer interest-free period, but it is very important again to make sure you pay off that balance before that interest-free period ends, because again, you could get bitten with a very high interest bill. So just make sure you're spending sensibly so you can actually pay it off at the end of the period. Now, you can actually merge the balance transfer and the purchase together to get a balance transfer and purchase card, which you get the benefits of the other two, except it's a much shorter interest-free period. So really it's quite risky because it's also got a high interest rate as well. So it's not always worth it, but it can be for certain situations. Just make sure you're speaking to people around you, see what they know, ask a financial advisor, and they should be able to help you figure out which one would be best for you. Now, next we're going to talk about cashback cards. Now, these are great because essentially what's happening is you're getting about 1 to 5% cashback on every purchase you make. It rewards good spending habits. But if you build up a debt on a cashback card, that can cost you a lot because they tend to have very high interest rates. So just make sure that you are paying off that debt at the end of every month. It's the same for all the cards, really. Make sure you pay off that debt, but especially with cashback cards, because they do tend to have quite high interest rates that can cost you a lot of money. So next we have a credit builder card. Now, this is for those people who don't have that good a credit score and therefore may struggle to get a different type of credit card. These are designed basically to help you build up a history of payments and paying off your credit cards. That way you can start building up your credit score, hopefully, is the theory. Now, of course, these are going to be a little bit more expensive to use. So just make sure, again, you're paying off that balance every single month and just being sensible with it, because this is designed to help you increase your credit score. If you start messing around and not being able to pay off your debts, that's just going to make your credit score a whole heap worse. So just make sure you are spending sensibly. As always with these cards, it's about spending sensibly and not going overboard with it. You can also get cards called charity cards. Now, these things work very similar to cashback cards, except instead of giving you the cashback, the money then goes off to charity instead. So if you're a particularly charitable person, these cards could be an option for you. So just make sure you are researching, finding out how much money is going off to the charities, where it's going, how it's going to be used, because of course you only want to be giving your money to the right places rather than just filling people's pockets. Another one that's similar to cashback cards is reward cards, except instead of getting cashbacks, you just get rewards for buying certain things. Now, these rewards can be anything. So again, make sure you read the fine print, make sure you know what you're getting in return for your money. For example, sometimes it's airline miles to buy flights with, or it can be points to buy food with at a supermarket. So just make sure you know what you're getting and you shouldn't be stung by anything. Now, there are also store cards. These are for specific stores and they can tempt you with really enticing offers. for example, 10% off for the first month that you spend on that card, for example. So they can be very tempting, but they do tend to have quite high interest rates as well. So just be wary, make sure you're paying off these store cards. You don't want to be, again, bitten by any high interest rates. So just be careful and don't always be tempted in by the very enticing looking offers they give. Now the final type is overseas cards. Now these are great for if you're a traveller and you want to buy things overseas, which most people do want to buy things overseas because you need to spend money. But normally when you just spend on a normal credit card overseas, there's a transaction fee, which can be around 2%. Now with a travel overseas card, you don't have that transaction fee. So in reality, it can end up saving you a whole lot of money. So if you're going to be doing a lot of traveling or spending a lot of time overseas, it's definitely worth having one of these cards because it could end up saving you a lot of money depending on how long you're away. So do your research, read the fine prints. If you are going traveling, I would highly recommend seeing if you can get an overseas travel card. Now there are a few important rules to remember when you're using a credit card. Now, as I've probably gone on about maybe a little too much this video, you have to pay the balance off. Okay, so just make sure at the end of every month you are paying off that balance. Now, a really good way to do this is to set up a direct debit from your account to your credit card supplier. That way, at the end of every month, your credit card supplier is going to take the money straight from your account. You won't have to do anything, and that way you'll know that you're not going to miss a payment. Now, of course, if you're worried that you won't have the money in your account to be able to pay for these credit card bills, don't use your credit card. But if you have got yourself into some sticky situation, cancel that direct debit as soon as you can, because if they keep trying to take money out of your account, it's just not going to end well, and then you may not be able to afford essentials such as food or heating. So just make sure you know how much money you have in your account and that you can actually afford to use your credit card. Next, you should actually use your credit card. Now, as well as the fact that using your credit card and then paying it off is going to look good because you'll start building up your credit history, which could lead to a better credit score. But if you have a rewards card or a cashback card and you're not using it, you're going to be missing out on any of those rewards you could actually get. So if you can afford to use your card, then do. If you can't afford to, then obviously don't. But if you can, it can end up making you a little bit better off with regards to having a better credit score, maybe, and also building up some rewards points. Now, it's also very important to remember that you should not apply for too many credit cards. Every time you apply for a credit card, your provider has to perform a credit check to make sure that you actually qualify, and then this will show up on your history. If loads of providers have been checking to make sure you can get credit cards, all of those are going to show up, okay? If you've been rejected a load of times, that's going to show up as well, which means lenders and credit card providers are less likely to see you as a viable borrower of money. So don't go crazy, don't apply for every single credit card you can, because all of that's going to show up and it may make it much more difficult for you to borrow from in the future. And if you have loads and loads of credit cards, then lenders and other credit card suppliers are just going to assume that you've got mountains of credit card debt. Again, not ideal. So just make sure you're not going out and applying for every credit card possible. Choose a select few, or even just one or two, and that'll be absolutely fine. Now, just to reiterate one last time, credit cards can be a great tool for buying things, for paying things off, for making big payments when you weren't expecting to, so long as you can clear the balance every month. I can't stress enough, but the interest on credit cards can be an absolute killer, so just make sure you are being careful, not going crazy and getting into a mountain of credit card debt. Now, hopefully you guys have learned something here today. If you've got any more questions about credit cards, then read the guide below, and that way you can actually learn a little bit about them there as well. They go into a little bit more information. If you want to know about credit scores, go to my credit score page. If you want to learn about mortgages or anything else, and read through all my guides and learn what you can. That is the most important thing to remember. My name's been Ben Walker. Hopefully you've learned something here today, and I'll see you again next time.